Hey, this is Sarah Benjamin-Jebara. I first want to start off by saying thank you so much if you're watching this. It truly does mean the world to me to be able to share my story and share my insights and for you guys to support me. It means so much. So thank you if you're watching. Today I'm going to be sharing a little bit more about my story. I think that really kind of gives a little bit more insight as to why I'm doing the work that I am doing and why it means so much to me to do this work. And it's kind of a scary video to film because this is really personal stuff. I also think it's really important because storytelling and being vulnerable is what brings people together. And when you can see your struggles for what they are, you can move past them. So enough about that. I'll get started. I am a perfectionist, a recovering perfectionist. I thought that if I could be perfect and I could always do the right thing, that I would be safe. And that I would always be loved, and I could always keep the people around me happy. And it's not the case. It's impossible. I've tried. I've basically put my entire life into trying to make all the people around me happy just so I could feel loved and feel secure and feel safe. When you do that, you expend all of your energy trying to make other people happy, and there's no energy left for yourself. So in high school, I would say all I wanted to do was be liked by my peers. I wanted to make my family happy. I wanted to make my mom and dad proud. I wanted to make my brother happy. I wanted to make my extended family happy. That's all I ever wanted. It's important to respect your family, and I don't think you should just act in complete disregard of them. However, it shouldn't be your top priority to just make them happy. It's very natural to want to step into your own. I never did that because I was so afraid of what other people would think of me or what my family would think of me, and I didn't want to let them down. I felt like the world was on my shoulders. I felt like I had to uphold this perfection. It's a horrible way to feel, and I think to a lot of people, I looked like I had it all together. People were aware of stuff that was going on in my family. Things were unpredictable, and I think to a lot of people, I looked like I had it all together, and I didn't. I was a complete mess on the inside, and I thought because I had to be perfect, I wasn't allowed to show how I felt. I felt very angry and very frustrated and very sad and alone, and I stuffed all of that down. And this was all throughout high school, and it started to physically manifest into these horrible stomach aches that I would have where I couldn't physically stand up. I would have to lay down and curl up into a ball. I think the anxiety was just so overwhelming. I wasn't showing it. I wasn't talking about it. I would say, this is what it is and it's okay. Part of my perfectionism, I felt like I needed to grow up. My way of protecting myself from these feelings and from the hurt that was going on is I became almost very wise because I was afraid. I was afraid that nobody was going to be able to help me. Nobody was going to be able to lead me through these hard feelings if I didn't figure it out for myself. And I would talk about being compassionate and talk about forgiving people and talk about all of these really grand notions, but it didn't take away the fact that I was in pain. You can have all the compassion in the world for somebody, and it still won't take away your pain. And like I said before, things were not stable at home at this point. And I come from like this beautiful family. We had a beautiful house in like a beautiful lake community. Like, it doesn't get any better than what I had. And still it was so broken on the inside, and there was so much pain and so much hurt and so much anger and resentment inside of my house. And I felt like it was my job to hold it down. I made myself into this perfect thing. I was like, I'm gonna be perfect, and I'm gonna be everything that I should be, because I have to hold this family together. And I became this very like mature and wise and perfect. Not that I was wise and perfect and all these things, but this is what I felt like I needed to be in order to feel loved and feel secure, and for my family to stay together. I was like, it was almost as if I did all of these things right, I would make it all okay. And it never made it okay. It was never going to be okay, because there was so much pain, and I could never fix that with the amount of things that I could do. I could never fix that. And in the summer of 2009, so I was 16, this was between my sophomore year of high school and my junior year of high school, my father committed suicide. My parents had just gotten divorced. Things were a little unstable. It's still something that I'm wrapping my head around. It's almost been 10 years, and it's still something that every time I think about it, I'm like, holy shit, that happened. The pain it was unreal. And of course, I was still so addicted to being perfect that I didn't know how to process it. Of course, I cried and I was depressed and I was shocked, which is, you know, I think how anybody would feel. But I still really felt like I needed to be perfect. And I needed to make sure people knew that I was okay, that my father had committed suicide, but I'm gonna take this really well. You can't force your emotions into a box. No matter how hard you try, you can't do that. And it was my prerogative to show people that how strong I was. Really, I was just terribly alone. I was incredibly sad and full of grief. I was angry. And I felt like nobody could possibly understand. I felt extremely isolated. And I would never let anybody in fully. That's how it felt. It felt like I had to put up a boundary with my friends. It felt like I had to put up a boundary with everybody, because there was such a fear of abandonment. I didn't want anybody else to do that to me. I didn't want anybody else to leave me like that. My father meant so much to me, and I didn't want anybody else to leave me like he did. So it became my prerogative to protect myself and make sure that I was the best person I could be. Did it mean I was the best person I could be? No. Of course, I was crazy, and I really held it up for another couple of years. I mean, I went through high school and I just wanted to be this girl who was strong and had it together and was like beautiful and perfect and everything. Just wanted to be liked and to be loved, because I didn't want someone to abandon me like that again. I wanted to please everybody, and it's exhausting. I felt like I really held it up through high school, and I graduated. I ended up going to college nearby. So my freshman year of college comes, and I'm a very normal college girl, but something else was happening on the inside for me. All of the pain, all of the anxiety, everything was coming to a head. Once I got to my freshman year, I took 18 credits and I started working full-time, and I was training for a half marathon. I thought I could do it all, and I was quite literally running myself into the ground and constantly putting all of this pressure onto myself. And really what I should have been focusing on is making friends, focusing on school, having fun. That's what college is for, figuring out who you are. And I was so focused on being who I thought I should be and performing. And nobody was even putting this pressure onto me. It's not like my mom was like, you have to get A's and B's. Nobody was putting this pressure onto me. I still felt like I had to uphold this perfect person or this perfect idea of a person. And in March of that year, so it was March of 2012, I think I lost it completely. I became suicidal, and I told my mom, I told her that I didn't want to live anymore. And I just remember crying and releasing so much. And she held me and I just cried, and it was so much that I almost felt like I blacked out from all of the emotions that came. And it was crazy. It was also very relieving. That was a huge turning point for me. It felt like I was admitting to harboring all of these feelings. And I felt ashamed for how I felt. I felt ashamed that I wanted to commit suicide. I felt ashamed about all of this. I felt ashamed I was depressed. I felt ashamed about that. And once I was able to tell somebody and say, I'm feeling this way, it released so much of its power over me. And I went to crisis intervention, and I spoke to, I believe it was a therapist or a social worker there, a couple different ones, and they were like, yeah, honey, you need to go to therapy and you need to get help. And it felt okay. I was like, okay, I can do this. It felt like because somebody was telling me to do it, I should go do it. And so I started going to therapy, and it started getting better. It was really rough. Looking back, it was rough. Holding on to all of those feelings was terrible, and stuffing them down and pretending like they weren't there, it was horrible. It was truly a spiritual awakening, a mental awakening, an emotional awakening. It was truly an awakening for me to come into contact with all of this stuff. And because after that I made mental health my number one priority, and it's something that I prioritize every single day. Because if I don't have that, then I won't have anything. And telling my story and doing this has made me just realize how awesome my life is today. Looking back, mean, my life is it's so much better. My life is so awesome today. I mean, I feel so much more at peace, and I feel so much more freedom, and my feelings are no longer a burden, and they're no longer these things that control who I am. And I'm just so incredibly grateful after doing this. It's really cool. I hope that this helps somebody. I hope that it shows that if you are feeling depressed, or you deal with depression, or you deal with anxiety, that you're not the only one. And I know how isolating it can feel to feel those feelings. And your story doesn't have to control you. Your story can set you free. Thank you for listening to me ramble on about my life. If you have any questions, or this resonated with you, you can let me know in the comments below. Thanks so much.